Lucifer was not just a fallen angel, he was a worship leader engineered for glory. Ezekiel 28 reveals a being adorned with precious stones and built-in instruments, a celestial creature whose very body resonated with sound. He didn't learn music, he was music. But when pride corrupted his purpose, the frequency shifted. What was once tuned to heaven became a broadcast of rebellion. Today, that same corrupted frequency pulses through culture. Music is no longer just entertainment, it's architecture. It builds atmospheres, stirs identity, and bypasses discernment. Lucifer's playlist isn't labeled with his name, but it's everywhere. In seductive lyrics, emotional highs without spiritual roots, and worship that entertains but doesn't convict. This message isn't about genres, it's about discernment. Not every sound that stirs your spirit comes from heaven. Some are engineered to stir your flesh, confuse your identity, and build temples of self. Lucifer didn't lose his sound. He lost his submission. And now he weaponizes music to do what he once did in Eden: corrupt the temple. We're going to expose the blueprint. We'll trace the anatomy of Lucifer's original design, unpack how music still carries spiritual DNA, and equip you to test the frequency. Because in this hour, the remnant must not just sing, they must discern. The enemy still builds playlists, but the saints must build altars. Ezekiel 28 verse 13 is part of a prophetic lament directed at the king of Tyre, rich with symbolic language that many interpret as having deeper spiritual implications. Here's a portion of the verse from the King James Version, KJV. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. This passage describes a figure adorned with beauty and splendor, referencing Eden and a covering of precious stones like sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, and carbuncle. It also mentions tabrets and pipes being prepared in this being, in the day that thou wast created. Many scholars and teachers see this as a dual-layered prophecy, addressing the earthly king of Tyre while also alluding to a heavenly being, often interpreted as a description of Lucifer before his fall. The imagery of Eden, creation, and musical instruments evokes a picture of pre-fallen glory and divine craftsmanship. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering. This isn't just about the king of Tyre. It's a layered lament that many believe also unveils the original splendor of Lucifer before his rebellion. 9 stones listed: sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle. Symbolism. These stones echo the priestly breastplate, Exodus 28, suggesting a role of representation or worship. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes suggests musical capacity built into the being, possibly a worship leader in heaven. The very instruments of praise became tools of pride. In the day thou wast created, not self-made, created, not begotten, this being was a crafted entity, not divine in origin. Eden wasn't just lost by Adam. It was forfeited by a celestial being first. Eden becomes the stage for rebellion twice. Glory as a garment. The stones weren't earned, they were given. When glory becomes entitlement, garments turn to grave clothes. Built to worship, wired for rebellion. Tabrets and pipes weren't accessories, they were identity. But when worship turns inward, sound becomes static. Was Eden on earth? Biblical clues. Genesis 2 locates Eden with geographical markers. A river went out of Eden to water the garden. It then splits into 4 rivers: Pishon, Gin, Tigris, Hiddekel, and Euphrates. These names suggest a Middle Eastern setting, possibly near Mesopotamia. But here's the twist. Eden isn't just a place, it's a prototype. Eden as earthly and heavenly. Earthly Eden, a literal garden planted by God, where Adam and Eve walked. Heavenly Eden. Ezekiel 28 verse 13 describes Eden as the garden of God, where a celestial being, often interpreted as Lucifer, once dwelled. This duality suggests Eden was a physical location on earth, a spiritual portal, a place where heaven touched earth. Think of Eden like the original sanctuary. God walked there, Genesis 3 verse 8. Man was placed there to work and guard it, same Hebrew verbs used for priestly duties in the tabernacle. Cherubim guarded the entrance after the fall, just like the cherubim on the Ark of the Covenant. So Eden wasn't just a garden. It was a temple zone, a dwelling place of divine presence. If Eden was both earthly and spiritual, the being in Ezekiel 28 verse 13 wasn't just in a garden. He was in God's presence, clothed in glory, functioning like a guardian or worship leader. His fall wasn't just a moral slip, it was a temple betrayal. Eden was the intersection of realms. A losing Eden wasn't just losing a location, it was losing access. Lucifer's design. Not human, not animal, celestial machinery. Tabrets and pipes, built-in instruments. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee. These weren't accessories, they were integrated. Musical capacity was part of his very being. Implication. Lucifer didn't just play worship, he embodied it. Precious stones as covering. 9 stones listed, echoing the priestly breastplate. Not clothing, but identity, his body was radiant, reflecting divine glory. He was a mirror of majesty. Cherub that covers. Ezekiel 28 verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. This suggests a protective role, possibly over the throne or sanctuary. Cherubim in Scripture often have multiple wings, faces of lion, ox, eagle, and man, see Ezekiel 1 and 10. A fire and wheels within wheels. Lucifer may have shared some of these traits, multi-winged, multi-faced, radiant, and mobile. Fire and stones of fire, Ezekiel 28 verse 14. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire, possibly symbolic of proximity to God's glory, or a literal access to the fiery presence. Teaching hook. He wasn't just beautiful, he was built. A Lucifer's body wasn't ornamental, it was functional, symbolic, and dangerous when turned inward. His fall wasn't just moral, it was mechanical rebellion. The worship engine reversed polarity. Many believers today chase charisma, gifting, and beauty, without discerning the design's purpose. A Lucifer teaches us, glory without submission becomes corruption. Lucifer, the worship leader who fell like lightning. Straightforward, dramatic, and biblical, Luke 10 verse 18. Gemstones and pipes. Lucifer's original design exposed. Intriguing and specific. Pulls directly from Ezekiel 28 verse 13. Suggests a forensic look at his anatomy and purpose. The covering cherub, when glory turned to rebellion. Echoes Ezekiel 28 verse 14. From Eden's guardian to glory thief, a legacy grade, combines Eden, purpose, and corruption. Does Lucifer influence modern music? Fire's short answer, yes, but not in the way people imagine. Lucifer doesn't partake in music like a passive listener. He weaponizes it. Music was part of his original design, Ezekiel 28 verse 13, and he still leverages its power to shape culture, seduce identity, distort worship, amplify rebellion. Lucifer's musical blueprint still echoes. Tabrets and pipes were built into him. He was a walking worship engine. After his fall, that design didn't vanish, it was corrupted. He now uses music to mirror heaven's structure, but invert its purpose. Stir emotion without truth. Create atmospheres that feel spiritual, but are lawless. Sound as structure. Music builds emotional architecture. It sets tone, rhythm, and flow, just like framing a house. A Lucifer uses music to frame rebellion and beauty. It's like wrapping poison in velvet. Signs of Lucifer's fingerprints in music. 1. Glory without holiness. Talent elevated over truth. A worship that entertains but doesn't transform. Identity confusion. A lyrics that blur gender, purpose, and spiritual boundaries. Beats that bypass discernment and go straight to the soul. Atmosphere over authority. Music that feels powerful but lacks biblical grounding. Emotional highs without spiritual roots. Lucifer didn't lose his sound. He lost his submission. He still knows how to stir hearts. But now he uses music to build temples of self, not altars of surrender. Not every sound that stirs your spirit comes from heaven. Some frequencies were engineered by a fallen worship leader. Lucifer didn't lose his sound. He lost his submission.